Welcome, viewers, to Stories from the Blog, a podcast about the everyday efforts shaping a greener and stronger Meghalaya. We bring to you stories of growing forests, creating livelihoods, and facing challenges together. Brought to you by the Community Based Forest Management and Livelihood Improvement in Meghalaya, the MegLife project, financed by JICA and implemented by the Meghalaya Basin Development Authority. Today, we are honored to have with us Dr. Subhash Ashutosh, a 1986 batch Indian Forest Service officer of the Assam Meghalaya cadre, who retired as the Director General of the Forest Survey of India. From physics to forestry, his journey has shaped national forest monitoring, important technical publications, and community conservation work in Meghalaya. In today's episode, we get to know the person behind this remarkable journey. So, sir, thank you so much for your time. I know it's a little tight, but you've made it possible for us to have this conversation with you here in Stories from the Blog, a podcast brought to you by the Meghalaya Basin Development Authority. So, I have a few questions with regards to the work that you've done, sir, in MBDA, in Meghalaya as a whole, for that matter. My first question being, so before people knew you as an IFS officer and a former Director General of the Forest Survey of India, my question is, who was Subhash Ashutosh as a young boy, and what kind of childhood shaped your love for science and for forests and eventually the public service?
It's a difficult question, Kong.
Is it? I'm sorry to keep you in the spot. We'd just like to know.
Yes. So, if I recall my childhood
Mm-hmm.
to the time when my memory goes back, we had a very simple, humble life in the childhood.
Mm-hmm.
My father was a block development officer posted in Eastern UP.
Okay.
So, my early childhood memories are from that period. I still remember the place called Balia. We were in those areas. My father then, after the first stint, he was posted in a forested region
Okay.
that was Mirzapur,
Oh.
and very dense
Yes.
forest.
Yes.
Not only forest, it was a dense forest as well as a tribal
Uh-huh.
area,
Uh-huh.
the Sonbhadra district
Okay.
presently, Miorpur, I remember that place. First time, in fact, we were exposed to forests, and it was really fascinating. In fact, those days I still remember whenever we used to pass through the forest stretches, we used to encounter wildlife.
Uh-huh.
And so maybe possibly my first encounter with forests and wildlife uh, was of that period when I might have been just 4 to 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in class 8th, my father asked me to appear in one national level residential school merit scholarship exam.
Okay. Okay.
It used to be in 3 stages: district level, state level, and the national level.
Mm-hmm.
So one by one, I cleared all these 3 stages. In fact, I was never aware that it will lead to one of the best public school of the country.
Okay.
And so from a rural area, I
Uh-huh.
suddenly found myself in Lucknow, the Calvin Talukdars College.
Okay.
After that, I was particularly interested in physics right from my class 10 standard.
Mm-hmm.
And after MTech, then there was a dilemma before me. I had to qualify one very open exam
Mm-hmm.
for PhD admission to IIT, and then after qualifying that, I got PhD under one of the most eminent professor uh, in the IIT at that point of time. He was a very senior professor, M.S. Soda. I
Okay.
will like to take his name.
Mm-hmm.
But then at that point, I faced a dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that this academic research career is going to take a very long time. And I happened to read one article in Science Reporter. Science Reporter used to be a very popular journal. It used to be published by NCERT.
Yes.
So in one of volume, there was an article on remote sensing for monitoring forests. And I still remember the name of author. He was an IFS officer, Dr. Ashbindu Singh. He was in service nearly 11 years senior to me. Then, when I read about the author mentioning that Indian Forest Service officer, then that was the first time when I realized that, okay, Forest Service, Indian Forest Service, I had heard about this service, but never knew that the forest officers can be so technical.
Yes.
Then that motivated me, and particularly this field was also very interesting to me. In fact, I was little bit aware about this remote sensing, satellite-based remote sensing. Then that evoked my interest in Indian Forest Service. Then probably I got the answer to my dilemma.
Yes.
That okay, so I will continue to pursue my research, academic interest, as well as this will give me a relatively quicker settlement in my career.
Actually, now I think I can put two and two together. When we're working together, you were always working on remote sensing, and I know that you work closely with the GIS and you have a team with Fettelman, and he was here in one of our episodes also. So now I know the story behind all of this in terms of remote sensing. I'm not an expert on it, sir, but I would always see a workshop or a gathering happening on this remote sensing. So now we know why. So thanks to the publication, to the volume. So I also wanted to just dig in a bit deep. When you said Mirzapur, immediately it takes me back to the movies or to the series. Was Mirzapur like how we see it in the television, or was it completely different for you?
Mirzapur district, which I mentioned, 54 years back to be precise.
Yes.
Of course, during those days, it was the areas were not very developed, and the tribal people, the tribal life in Mirzapur interior part, that used to be very much intact. Then you have some feudal society still there, so that kind of background. So it is quite realistic in that sense.
Okay. I know that you did mention about IIT in Lucknow. So we also understand that you began with physics in Lucknow University and then IIT Delhi. So and later entered the Indian Forest Service as mentioned earlier. So was there a moment that you felt, your life was moving from science in the classroom to, science in the forest?
Yes, but then it happened in a little planned way. Since then, in fact, when I finally joined Meghalaya in 1988, I was posted in Garo Hills. I have. It was really a very happening time during those days. I still remember my stint in Darugiri, Dainadubi. Those were the days when we used to have a very serious problem of illicit felling in the border areas. And controlling that was a big challenge.
What about poaching? Was it?
Yeah, so later when I was posted in wildlife, then this poaching was again a big challenge. I have again several stories of that period.
Oh, we'd like to know. We'd like to hear.
No, in fact, we busted a couple of gangs. One is coming to my mind. There used to be organized poaching of elephants.
Organized? Very planned.
Yeah, planned, in a planned manner. So once when we came across one poaching, because it was, the elephant was shot dead using rifle. Our field staff, when they detected and when we finally investigated that, then we found that, okay, this cannot be done by common man or our local.
Yes.
When some rifle has been used. So I still remember we had a very good dynamic range officer in William Nagar during those days. So with the help of police, then we finally detected one person. In fact, you will be surprised to know that he was from the police department. And So they had some connivance,
Uh-huh.
though he was arrested, and then finally that led to senior officer that time, DIG, Mr. Rakesh Sharma. He helped us very much during those days,
Mm-hmm.
and then he established. In fact, that was beyond our capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So he helped us in establishing a link between insurgents' connection with NSCN
Oh.
and this elephant meat is smuggling. So they were probably doing this for procuring arms and all those things. So that day, those were the very troubled days.
Of course.
This is the period of 96.
So that's why you
19.
said it was very happening.
It used to be. So in my initial days, I was fighting for this illegal felling in the border areas of Diana to be
Uh-huh.
that side.
Mm.
And then later on, when I got a chance to work for wildlife protection,
Mm-hmm.
then so this is not an isolated case.
Mm-hmm.
There were several poaching incidents which we detected those
I
days, and
understand.
then there were those days there used to be a lot of elephant depredation cases. In fact, that was also a big challenge. Damage,
Mm-hmm.
casualties, loss of life that used to happen.
Man and animal conflict.
Man animal conflict. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, so you've also been posted in the wildlife department sector,
Yes.
correct? So, if you were to make a vast distinction or a comparison between then and now, what would you say is the situation that we are in right now in terms of wildlife, especially in Meghalaya, be it our elephants to our clouded leopard, to all the wildlife that's there? What is the difference that you can see as of now and then? I know you're not in service, but maybe you still have your reports with you. How would you compare it?
One thing definitely comes to my mind that during those days our forests were richer, I will say.
Of course.
There has been little degradation in the forest areas in terms of canopy density. Many of our those very dense forests, they have become open forests. This leads to degradation of habitat of wildlife. Definitely wildlife also faces stress. If we just consider our protected areas, wildlife national parks, sanctuaries, they remain intact because they are accorded a very high degree of protection. But since our protected area network is a very limited in size, so most of our wildlife we used to find in outside in community forests, this shifting cultivation areas. So there definitely, I think wildlife might have reduced since that time. And another consequence of that is that we see many man-animal conflict cases now as compared to those times.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I read in the Forest Survey of India report, I think the last report, that Meghalaya has seen a decline in its forest cover, at least 10% or 20%, if I may recall. I mean, we've lost that much in the last decade. So
In
I
the
think-
last decade, yes. Continuously in the last 4 India State of Forest reports, which
yes.
is released by Forest Survey of
Yes.
India, we are seeing this
Decline.
degradation happening. So our forest cover is declining, in fact, both in extent as well as in quality. So our dense forests are turning to moderately dense forests, and moderately dense forests are turning
open?
to open forests.
Oh gosh. Oh, should we frame it as a climate emergency then, or is it a wrong statement?
No, I will not tend to agree with this phrase, climate emergency. There is nothing like emergency, but it definitely calls for some focus, strategic, long-term actions. And I'm happy that our government is quite sensitized to that.
Yes.
And that's why if you see in the last 5 to 8 years or 10 years period, many new initiatives have been launched, and they are now definitely showing some good impact on the ground.
Like payment for ecosystem
Payment for
services,
ecosystem service, that
carbon
is one
credits.
really a very path-breaking kind of initiative.
So I have a few more questions for you. It's been interesting and insightful, in fact, rather intimidating for all of us in the room with all your achievements, especially in terms of your academic.
Though it is not to be mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
I have 7 master's degree. So, and so in fact I do not I prefer not to tell this because I see personally that this is a kind of disqualification.
No,
People,
actually,
it's a matter
look
of
at us. We have just one.
So-
So 7. Can you name all of them, sir?
okay. So I
Masters in.
did MSc physics from Lucknow University. That was 1983. Then I did MTech from IIT Delhi. Then after that I did MSc forestry, and then after that I did PG diploma in remote sensing and GIS from Indian Institute of Remote Sensing. Then I did MA economics. It is not in sequence. In fact, MA economics I did.
Yeah.
So I did MA economics, and then
Number
I did
6.
MA in public policy,
Okay.
and I also did a PG diploma in public administration. So I think 6 or 7.
So all of this while being in service.
Except first 2, MSc and MSc physics and MTech.
Ladies and gentlemen, what is your excuse? I mean, how do we converse now? But it's interesting, sir.
So that, and plus finally PhD.
Oh gosh.
So 7 master's degree and 1 PhD.
So, your work has shaped our national forest monitoring, as mentioned, then the Indian state forest reports, forest type mapping, and forest fire monitoring and carbon assessment, and many technical publications. So, among all of these publications, is there one paper that remains close to your heart? Or maybe 2?
When I joined Forest Survey of India, in fact, that again happened in a very planned manner. I had interest in remote sensing GIS applications when I joined Forest Service. Then, since beginning, when I came to Meghalaya, of course, initial period was full of action. But after that, that also happened that I should get some field experience, and then I will start pursuing my technical expertise of my field, that was remote sensing applications in forestry. So the best institution in the country field of remote sensing applications is Indian Institute of Remote Sensing in Dehradun. That is under Department of Space. So I joined that for 1 year PG diploma course. I planned for this course because I thought of joining Forest Survey of India. I decided to take this course for preparing myself for my assignment in Forest Survey of India, and that was really one of the wisest decision in my life. And sometimes luck also favors you.
Yes.
So the advantage was that I was well trained, and I was coming out from one of the leading institution of the country in remote sensing. So from I started enjoying my assignment, and when I joined Forest Survey of India, I was given the responsibility of forest cover monitoring of the country.
As planned.
You asked me about one publication.
Yeah, which remains closest to your heart?
It's difficult to single out one, but one publication which I remember that got published in an international journal, that is Tropical Ecology.
Okay.
That was based on one study which we did there in Forest Survey while I was continuing as deputy director that time. That was knowledge based, means we applied field observations, field knowledge in making an algorithm, making a classifier
Mm.
for mapping forest types.
Mm.
So, in fact, this paper means related ground observations with remote sensing
Mm.
science, you can say, and then it led to classification, and then this was accepted in this because this paper then became our methodology for taking up nationwide forest type mapping, and that was the first such exercise for the country, and then we could successfully complete that.
That is a lot of information that needs to be processed. The team and I are still, I think, very technically very unaware, but it sounds very interesting. And maybe perhaps if our brain would allow us to understand, we'd love to read this one day and sit down with you. So much of your work involves satellites, then maps, data, scientific assessment. But forests are also about people, right? Culture, livelihood, and of course, identity. So, how did your time in Meghalaya change the way you understood this human side of the forests?
Very important question. Very. So initially, as I was totally involved in the technical technology, this
Yes,
remote
yes.
sensing, GIS applications in some of the core technical applications in monitoring, assessment, which also included first time carbon assessment in the
Yes.
forest. That was way back in 2003 when we reported for first national communication to UNFCCC from Forest Survey of India. So I was very thickly involved in that exercise. So that was purely a technicality. But
Aspect.
you have very rightly mentioned, Kong, and I always thank my luck that I got this cadre Meghalaya, which is not only forest rich, it is a tribal state, rich tribal traditions. While serving in the state, and as I grew in seniority,
Yes.
then you start thinking that this technology should not be for, it should be a means
Yeah.
for the improvement of people's lives in some way or the other. And Meghalaya, say, when I came and then in my role as a senior forest officer here, then we thought that how we can apply this technical this thing, and then so that gave us some vision that how while being we can put all these technical things for creating some livelihood opportunities, some income generating opportunities
To the people.
for the people, while they still remain engaged with their traditional practices, their conservation practices. So you can see this payment for ecosystem service initiative, as well as some carbon finance initiatives which
Yes.
have been introduced in the state in the last few years. They are all linked to this. On the face of it, it looks
Technical.
no. On the face of it, it may not look that technical.
Okay.
But then, if you go through the methodology, say like in PS also, we have MRV protocol
Yes,
which we
yes,
follow,
yes.
and though it is not very technical, we have kept purposely a very simplified version. But say carbon credit initiatives, for that you have to follow international methodologies of those standards.
Yes.
Of course, we are taking help of technical partners. We are onboarding some outside agencies in developing these projects.
Like
But then
Ayora and Rabobank.
yes,
Are they the
yes,
ones?
yes. To do it successfully on a long-term basis, you definitely need some in-house capacity building also.
Yes. Yes.
So now all this technical knowledge is helping us. So I will just like to mention about some recent initiatives which we have taken.
Yes.
We have taken one initiative about we started it 4 to 5 years ago. that was about preparing forest management plans.
Yes, the FMPs.
FMP. And now over a period of last 4 years, we are almost completing more than 900.
50.
Yes, around that.
Yes.
So it's a quite a good number, and
Yes.
this has led us to develop a capacity and a ecosystem within MBDA, wherein we have a trained pool of VCFs who are capable of doing field inventory work, well trained in
Yes.
use of GPS, use of remote sensing images, identify sample plots, laying out sample plots, taking measurements, use all those equipments in measuring trees. So it's a
Remarkable.
very it's a very welcome
Yes.
development which has taken place, and that has given us a capacity to in fact extend these carbon projects now. And that's how I think we are now finding ourselves a little comfortable in understanding these carbon projects, and this opens up vast opportunities. In
Yes.
fact, on one hand, it ensures sustainability, conservation of our forests, enrichment of our forests through plantations, and while ensuring a very sustainable revenue stream for the community persons through carbon credits. So,
It's interesting actually, because when we were starting this conversation, we were looking at how the forest covers have declined and how it was alarming, as we mentioned earlier. But all these initiatives seem to be going in the right path.
yes.
After retirement, sir, you still continued your in serving the state, Meghalaya, through the Center of Excellence for Natural Resource Management and Sustainable Livelihoods, and also community forest management plans, as mentioned, for over 950 villages. Then we mentioned about the payment for ecosystem services and of course, bamboo livelihoods and nurseries. So, our question is, what kept you connected to this work even after formal service, if we may call it?
In fact, frankly speaking, Kong, I am enjoying my present assignment. In fact, my present assignment allows me to pursue those interests which I could not pursue when I was in regular service. I was apparently quite on a senior position.
Yes,
I
yes.
retired as PCCF in the state.
Yes.
But outside after retirement, outside the department, when working with the Center of Excellence, in fact, it gave me freedom, flexibility. Our colleagues in the bureaucracy, they are very, very helpful.
Yes, yes.
Whatever new ideas I propose, so far I have never say all have been accepted by them, and then that is helping me, and so I continue to remain involved. And another big satisfaction which I derive and feel is that now you feel very closely connected to the communities, and you can see the results. Means if not results immediately, at least the process which is unfolding in improving their livelihoods or the natural resources on which they depend for their livelihoods. So that visibility of linkage of interventions and the impact, that is very much there. So that gives us
A
me
satisfaction.
and other team members a very good satisfaction.
So earlier you mentioned when you had entered Meghalaya in the 80s while joining for your service, you mentioned that Meghalaya was happening at that time. Now, if you may allow us, we would say you are happening at this time. So which
It's,
brings,
I think, exaggeration. I will say.
I don't think it's an exaggeration. I think we are witnessing it firsthand of the work that you've done, sir, for the state. So I think you're just being very modest. Okay. So, sir, I remembered earlier this year in the month of May, if I'm not mistaken, we had the inauguration of the biochar plant unit. Can you just walk with us through of what it was about and why was it so important, or why is it very relevant to our state?
Yes, Kong. This is another very important initiative, I will say. We have termed this as Meghalaya Community Biochar Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Our Honorable CM inaugurated this
The plant.
first such biochar reactor, in fact, two machines at Umsli village
Yes.
in Barimbong area.
Mm-hmm.
And why this is important and unique? This is basically it's a community initiative.
Okay.
Biochar is a carbon-rich material which is produced from biomass.
Mm-hmm.
Why it is useful? Because biochar is a very important soil amendment, and soil amendment for which helps in natural farming and organic farming. Our state has one major soil deficiency, that largely about more than 80% soil in Meghalaya is acidic in nature. Biochar is a proven amendment for neutralizing acidity of the soil. And this is only one benefit of biochar. Biochar enhances productivity of soil in several ways. It provides, it helps in soil moisture retention. Then it leads to microbial growth in soil, which helps in soil productivity. It enhances organic soil carbon. So it's a good absorbent of this minerals, fertilizers which are applied like vermicompost and all. So biochar is a very useful amendment for the soil of Meghalaya. And in Meghalaya we have abundant biomass, bioresources available. And one major resource is bamboo.
Okay.
Bamboo, we have very rich bamboo resource. We have done recently
Bamboo
resource
assessment.
inventory,
Yes.
first time again for the state, where we assessed how many culms and how much quantity wise, how much tonnage of bamboo we have in our forest, extent of bamboo, so that we know, and we have a spatial information map, grid wise availability information for the whole state. So, but then bamboo in many areas, in most of the areas I will say, is not finding proper economic end use.
Okay.
So it is available. So now this biochar initiative, it is an initiative, in fact it's in pilot phase. In fact, we are setting up two such plants, one in Khasi Hills and one other in Garo Hills, similar identical kind of two reactors type of unit. The idea is that bamboo will be procured from the community persons who are growing bamboo, who have some natural areas or planted bamboo in their home states.
Yes.
So this through some FPC or some cooperative society, IVCS, the bamboo from the growers will be procured. It will be converted to biochar, and then this biochar will this is the design which we, after discussing it with Mr. Vijay, our Commissioner Agriculture and Planning, we could link this initiative with organic mission of the state, which is being steered by Magnolia. You may be aware about that.
Yes.
So we are procuring bamboo, again that is community linkage is there. Then it is being produced by FPC here, like in Rivhoi, and so again that is a community organization. Then the biochar which is being produced from this plant, that will be again applied to the agricultural fields of the community persons
Mm-hmm.
who are already onboarded under Organic Mission. So it
Okay.
is helping Organic
Yes,
Mission,
yes.
and Magnolia will somehow will come into picture in facilitating this biochar application in the agricultural field.
So it's a
So starting from the community, by the community, for
yeah.
the community, so it
Yes.
is creating that
And-
kind of linkage. And so it's a and so the story does not end here.
Yes, yes.
We have in this initiative we have involved because again being soil related, there are technical we have to monitor how it
Yes.
is helping, how much quantity dosage we have to optimize,
Mhm.
all those things. So we have also tied up with ICR.
I see. So there's
ICR.
a convergence.
So we have signed one MOU with them,
Mhm.
and they are helping us. And finally, this is leading us to earn carbon credits
Mm.
again. And carbon credits which come under this CDR, carbon dioxide removal category, it's a very high quality credits, fetching almost 5 to 8 times higher price than what we are going we were getting from this agroforestry or forestry based credits. So this carbon credits projects again we have formulated. It has been listed also. It will take some time, but then after some time this carbon credits will also accrue, and then this carbon credits will again be shared with farmers, bamboo growers, FPC, and all the players involved in
It's
this
like a nice
initiative.
circle
Yes,
that we're doing.
yes. So that's why it is a community-centric initiative.
Yes, sir. So, I mean, I think we would go on and on listening to your conversation, even though it's a very technical approach. You've simplified it for us so much that we can at least capture the essence of it. So, which I mean, it's sad, but we're coming to the last question that we have for you. So, after such a long journey, in the public service and research, forestry, community nurseries, conservation, what would you like young people, especially our viewers, to understand about forest service and living a meaningful life?
I may appear biased towards
Yes.
forest service,
Yes.
which of course
Yes,
I have.
natural.
It's quite natural
Yes.
for me, having pursued this
Yes.
career for last almost 40 years now.
Mm.
But this is one service, in fact, which gives you so much opportunities for pursuing your academic and technical interests. First thing, it gives you an opportunity to work with the people, and it also gives you tremendous opportunities for upgrading your skill, developing specialization in diverse range of fields, whether it is wildlife, remote sensing, assessment, plantations. Means there are very vast areas where you
Yes.
can develop specialization, and then it while serving in the forest areas, it helps you in connecting with the people.
Yes.
And doing some meaningful engagement with them, which improves their lives, and also it leads to sustainable pathway, which is need of the hour presently in the when we are facing climate change in such a harsh manner now. With every passing year, the impacts of climate change is becoming more and more severe.
Yeah.
So, I will say that definitely Forest Service, not only Indian Forest Service, Forest Service starts at the grassroots level. Even our foresters are there, then our range officers are there,
Yeah.
then our state forest service colleagues are there, Indian Forest Service. So definitely this is one career opportunity uh,
Mm.
at whatever level one feels comfortable. So one should definitely try
Mm.
if somebody has a knack towards
Yes.
this environment sector.
Mm.
Otherwise, without joining a service, also everyone has a big role to play now
Yes. Yes.
for contributing
Yes.
towards conservation,
Yes.
developing, engaging with the communities in sustainable pathways, green economy, bamboo. There are so many areas where we can work with the
So
people.
I think it is very safe to say that our future is in very much safe hands with you as our visionary leader. So it was a very interesting topic. Thank you so much for simplifying it for us, narrowing it down to making us understand the work that you do and why you do what you do. So thank you so much for your time. So we from Stories from the Block have had such a enriching conversation in today's episode, and we do hope that you still continue your work, and I know that there's nothing stopping you. Even retirement couldn't stop you. So thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure to have you with us, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kong, and I really enjoyed talking to you. And I now I feel that how the last 1 hour has just passed like a
Yes.
few minutes.
Yes.
So thank
So
you
that's
very
when
much,
we know
and
you've had
I
a
really
nice time.
appreciate your questions,
Thank
your
you, sir.
insights
Thank you, sir.
which you have.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.